Hello, everybody. We're doing part two of Alex Jones on Black Lives Matter with Steven Crowder. Previous episode, they were just complaining about the cost of COVID on businesses and stuff. Let's see if they get into anything meatier.
This is startling. I mean, we talked about it with Deep Elm. This is really a post-apocalyptic type scenario.
Here's George Floyd. He's the king, and all on the back of this sad guy who was just totally drugged out.
Yeah.
And it's so sad what's happened to all these drug addicts.
Yeah.
But then they become this symbol that the police, who basically are janitors for them now, they clean up their crap, they take them to the hospital, and now when something gets out of hand and there's a mistake and something happens, the police get charged with murder.
Well, there's a mistake and something happens. The police get charged with murder. So he's trying to sweep under the rug the fact that this guy was murdered for no reason by the cops by trying to say it was a mistake. And if you're tired of the cops having to deal with drug addicts, we could change the drug laws. Instead of having drugs illegal, we could decriminalize drugs and have counselors talk to the drug addicts. This is one thing Black Lives Matter is looking for. Defund the cops so that they don't have to deal with a bunch of societal stuff that they're not supposed to be dealing with, and have people that are qualified to deal with those stuff. Like with drug addicts, drug counselors and health professionals would be better off dealing with these people, and same with the drug addicts, they would be better off dealing with health professionals and drug addiction counselors compared to cops. But it's funny how he's complaining about cops having to deal with drug addicts, yet he's against the legalization or decriminalization of drugs.
Right. Yeah, it is. Did you watch the full body cam footage of George Floyd?
I did. It's very sad.
It's very sad, and I think what's going to happen, unfortunately, is you're going to see more backlash because, listen, it's a tragedy. We always said it was an example of improper police training, but there's no example of malice or racism. You know, there are people saying, hey, we're not going to shoot you. Get in the back of the car, please. We'll roll down the window.
You say in the back,
we'll turn on the air.
I can't breathe.
There's no malice or anything. That doesn't matter whatsoever. The fact that the cop stood on his neck for 10 minutes is justification for a type of murder charge. And then you gotta, if you watch the beginning of the body cam that they're talking about, the cop almost instantly pulls a gun out on George Floyd. So there was some type of malice or aggression going on there.
Sit in the car with me. I'm scared. He was.
And the officer says, I'll roll down the window.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, listen, a tragedy still, obviously, but there's no way they can make something like second-degree murder stick. And when you talk with people here on these streets and you say, hey, listen, have you watched the footage? They go, I don't need to watch it to know that that killing was murder.
Yeah, you don't really need to watch the video to know that the cop murdered the person. But watching the video does not change anything that happened. Like the fact that George was saying he couldn't breathe beforehand meant that he could have indicated some kind of breathing problem he was dealing with, which should have told the cops, hey, we need to not put our knee on this guy's neck while he's face down on the ground.
And it's really concerning.
Well,
because
it all becomes an excuse to riot and burn things down,
right,
to try to kill the U.S. economy. It's what Bill Maher and all the Democrats said. We want a depression, we want a recession, we want a crashing stock market, so people reject President Trump. And so Trump needs to get out there. Trump needs to get out there and expose the fact that it is the Democrats and the deep state who are trying to crash the whole economy to bring the entire U.S. down with them, to have a new Marshall Plan nationwide to bail them out.
Wow, this is hilarious. Still going on about the deep state BS. I bet Alex Jones is part of the QAnon conspiracy, because this is what they like to talk about as well. Some kind of deep state funny thing is, though, is that this quote-unquote deep state isn't, like, politically affiliated with one group. If there is some type of shadow, government going on, which, in all probabilities, it is pretty high. I mean, and with the fact of, like, revolving door politics, it's not truly a shadow government. The rich people act pretty much out in the open. They write their own bills. They have their own justice system and everything else. It's pretty obvious. But the fact that there's, like, this secret group trying to, like, defeat Trump is just something that came about after Trump started running for election. Before this, there was no talks of any type of deep state.
The truth is, the blue cities and blue states have been horribly mismanaged. They're kleptocracies. They've robbed their people. They're collapsing. So now they're trying to collapse the whole country to make all the red states and the Midwest and other areas bail them out.
The funny thing about that, though, is the red states receive a whole lot more money in federal aid than taxes that those states pay into, compared to the blue states, which pay more in federal taxes compared to the amount of federal aid they receive. So in all actuality, the red states are being bailed out by the blue states.
So that's why they're trying to bring the country down and saying the dollar is going to die and all the rest of this is because they literally know America is waking up to them, so they're trying to destroy us before we actually wake up.
What's this? Oh, look at that. Well, see, I don't know if you know, but this is what George Floyd would have wanted.
Well, that's right. I mean, this ATM, people not be able to get money out of it.
You don't even know what George Floyd would have wanted. And it is pretty disgusting how the right likes to pretend they know what a dead person wants. Especially these racist white people who just like to use the death of the person to tell black people to shut up.
It's a representation of white supremacy.
This is a symbol of white supremacy. It's like Ilhan Omar just said, and so did AOC. She said the banks and the businesses and Wall Street, it's all evil. We're going to destroy it and collapse it. Of course.
Well, you do have the banks that have been known to practice redlining in reverse redlining. In 2008, they were doing some reverse redlining against black people and Hispanic people by charging them higher interest rates for housing loans. Redlining is a practice of denying services or goods to a group of people based on race or something else. In the past, black people were redlined by the banks with the support of the government. The banks would deny housing loans and business loans to black people while approving them for white people, which forced black people to become renters and employees of white-owned businesses and black and white landlords, while the white people benefited greatly from the extra income that they gained. So, yes, there is a lot of white supremacy and racism within the banking institution and a lot of these corporations. And yes, that needs to be addressed, and if these businesses don't want to deal with their racism, and if they get burned down, well, that's what happens.
Then they'd be in Somalia again,
Right.
Which she doesn't seem to understand, that once you collapse the civilization,
Yeah.
that doesn't empower you. That makes you poor.
I was just joking. I don't think Ilhan Omar did that. I think it's just someone who committed a crime and used it as an excuse. This is what's remarkable.
No, I totally agree with what you're saying.
No, I understand what you're saying,
But they're in general saying no borders, no wall, no USA at all. Let's destroy it. The city of Austin, in the official budget that's been put forward, says they want to blow up the police station as a symbol of fighting police misconduct.
Oh yeah, no, that's a good way. I mean, police stations are paid for by taxpayers' money, so if the taxpayers decide to do away with these buildings, they have the choice to So, get over yourself.
So literally,
Who says this?
The city of Austin, in their official budget, talks about accelerating the controlled demolition of the police department as a symbol of getting rid of hate, and then making the police be broken up and put in other bureaucracies inside the city. I swear to God, I know it sounds insane.
No.
Yeah, that's no problem. Yeah, defund the cops, decrease their budgets, increase the budgets of various health professionals and counselors and stuff to deal with various societal needs that need to be met. And then these cops can be used for actually fighting violent crime and stuff, instead of being used to do wellness checkups on the elderly people, which result in the cops killing those elderly people for no reason whatsoever.
I understand what you're talking about there. You're talking about defunding the police. Some areas where they're talking about abolishing the police. I don't know if this is a city council kind of situation, but what is interesting is I know that, listen, you've been anti sort of militarization of police. You've talked about that for a long time. Obviously, you're more of a libertarian. Where do you line up when you see this and you see all of the damage? We can keep walking. And you see, do you think that Donald Trump, for example, in Portland or in Seattle, should be sending in the feds, the National Guard?
Sure.
Where do you line up on that?
People get confused about the fact that I'm against a police state.
Right.
But I'm not against the police.
No.
You're against the police state, but not against the police, yet you're in favor of Trump sending the feds out to kidnap people, which in essence is a police state, or creating a police state. So Trump is not Trump, but Alex Jones is pretty much lying about this.
The Democrats are the ones that want a police state where you don't have due process, where you're surveilled, where you don't have free speech, where they can secretly arrest you. They don't want to get rid of the police.
Wait a minute, but Trump is secretly arresting people as well, using using cops that are unmarked uniforms and unmarked vehicles that they're renting from rent-a-car companies. Obama did the same thing, but Alex Jones can't act like it's just the Democrats that do stuff like this, when it's both the Republicans and the Democrats.
They want to take over the police through the UN-run Strong Cities initiative that Obama and Loretta Lynch pushed.
Hold on a second. That's a hazard. Look at that. They didn't put that nail in right. The shoddy workmanship, if you're going to be a hobo, at least put in the nail right, because you could get some tetanus.
Whoa, if you're going to be a hobo, at least put a nail in right? Why does he assume that it's the homeless people that put these boards up? That was just another shot at homeless people for no reason, but it just shows his hatred for homeless people. This is going to be the end of part 2. Let me know what you guys think. We'll continue on more later. Hit the notification bell to keep up to date. Peace.